Welcome to the KBB From the Top podcast. I'm Executive Editor Chelsea Butler. This week, I'm talking to Gail Doby, who is a coach and consultant for interior designers. She and her team at Gail Doby Coaching and Consulting have helped more than 10,000 designers in 76 countries move their business forward, which is what we are discussing today. Be sure to subscribe to KBB's YouTube channel and click the like button on our videos. You can also subscribe to the From the Tap podcasts on such apps as Apple, Spotify, Pandora, and Google Podcasts. And please feel free to leave a review. Welcome, Gail, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So let's talk a little bit about your background and how you transitioned into your current role.
Well, it's an interesting kind of a checkered past, I guess. I had a degree in finance first and was working for a Fortune 500 company. And then somewhere down the road, I started doing design work for friends and clients. And so I went back to school, got a degree in it. And then as 2007 rolled around, it was definitely an interesting period, as you might remember, right before the recession. And I started realizing I had several friends that were designers. Most of these people did not know how to run their businesses. And I was thinking to myself, that's the part I love the most. So I ended up sliding into doing some coaching, and it's been going on since 2008. So it's we're heading into our 15th year, and it's been absolutely a perfect fit for what I love to do.
And absolutely a perfect fit. You know, I'm sure during all the industry crises along the way, but especially, what's going on today. It's
kind of like this mixed bag of just about everything that you could throw in there is happening for the designers.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm sure you're getting even more business, just like they are, than you had before.
Right. It's definitely not slow.
So what are some of the main things designers are concerned about given our current state of the industry?
Oh my gosh, there's so many, but I'd say the two top ones right now, well, actually three. I'll say that number one is the supply chain issues. We're having tremendous problems with supply chain. It's taking sometimes up to a year, sometimes a little bit longer to get materials. And even the parts and the components of all of the things that are being built may be coming from China. And that certainly with China having issues with COVID, it has been a real problem for a lot of our vendors to create merchandise. And that is so hard to explain to a client. So that's probably the first one. Another one that is a big one is we are seeing the most competitive market ever in terms of hiring. And we'll talk about that during a few questions today. But for sure, I think the market has gotten so intense, and trying to find qualified people who are interested in taking a job on your team is a huge issue today, because we really do not have any sort of guarantee that these people are really qualified. In some cases, we're seeing people who are maybe not even qualified to be juniors, thinking they're going to get $100,000 a year as a senior designer with no experience. So that's another issue. And I think the third issue that I'll bring up today is that the prices are so hard to pin down for the costs of the materials, and also just trying to get your clients to pay the extra for you to do all the follow-up and the things that are required. That it's all part of the supply chain. It's part of just getting things even to your job site today. It's all tied up in so many different things. Like people are they're doing the work, they're following up, but they can't charge for it. So it's really affecting the designers because they're taking a lot of time to fix problems today.
So I wanted to go back to the supply chain issues, and
Sure.
We've done a lot of coverage and talked to a lot of our our editorial advisory board members and things of that nature to kind of find out what solutions they're using to get through all of that. And I know one of the challenges around it is how to explain that to clients. And I was hoping that as of today, maybe clients are a little bit more used to these challenges.
No,
that's not the case.
No, it's worse. They're getting so impatient, and they're belligerent. They're difficult, and they are mad at the designer because that's the only person they have contact with. And it's almost as if they don't believe the designers that there's a problem. And I think that a lot of people are thinking, well, gosh, you can't be doing your job. It's got to be your fault. You forgot to place the order. Well, that's not the case. We really are seeing such a major problem. And I think for a lot of people today, one thing that they're doing is making copies of the letters from their vendors talking about supply chain so that the clients can see that this is not something they're making up. It still doesn't make it any better. And I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, and she actually, her business, her family's business is manufacturing furniture. So she took some dented and damaged items and covered those in neutral fabrics. And she has that inventory that she can rent out or just put in her clients' homes just to get them by until their actual furniture arrives. So I think people are having to be very creative today about how they're handling the clients, but the biggest thing is you've got to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though sometimes they're telling them things they don't want to hear, but
exactly.
So in terms of other solutions, are you giving out advice about, coming up for having the designers, maybe go with a different brand outside of their tried and true? Like what solutions outside of just, talking to the clients are you talking with them about?
Well, I think it's hard to go from one vendor to another. They're all having the same problems. So it's not like you're going to solve the problem by switching vendors. I think you're better off sticking with the people that you know, but just know that there are certain brands that tend to have a faster lead time than others. So try to pick those if you can. But for the most part, again, it comes down to just really educating your clients right up front. Actually, and we're going to talk about contract, but I think you actually have to have some comments in the contracts today about the supply chain issue and the lead times, because it is so important for people to understand and sign off on that they understand that it is going to be a long time before they get their merchandise.
Yeah, so that was my next question. I do want to get into contracts.
Sure.
And so what are some of the new things, the amendments and things that need to be added to contracts? I mean, obviously with everything that's going on, but just how has that kind of transitioned over the last few years?
Well, I think a lot of people are trying to resolve issues they've had in the past with their new contracts, and that doesn't always work. And I would tell you that one of the biggest problems that I see with contracts is that there's not clarity in the contract. A lot of designers are not covering some of the issues up front and in a clear way. They are not reviewing the contract with the client prior to actually signing it. And they'll send a contract because they don't like to talk about them. So they'd rather just email it and just wait for the contract to be signed. I can guarantee you that most of the clients are not reading that contract, and they might skim through it, and you'll have a lot of people that won't even sign the contract and they'll go away. They just ghost you after that. And so today I think it's really essential for all designers to have a conversation with the client right up front and go through any of the issues, and maybe even have a place where you could initial that the client understands how they're being billed, how often they're being billed, that they are paying a certain amount up front, maybe it's a project commitment fee, that they have some of those things that they make sure to highlight so that the client admits that they've heard it.
And you had mentioned earlier something to the effect of adding, maybe the additional fees for the extra services and things like that they're doing right now?
Well, for example, most people will have something in their contract that says if there is a problem with a shipment or something is damaged, that they will do that at no charge. That's a fairly common part of what they do. And there is a point now where you almost cannot do that because almost everything is coming in damaged, which would be the fourth really big issue for the industry right now. So the shipping issues and getting things to the job site that are actually in one piece and not scratched or dented or scraped or anything, that's very, very hard today. And we're just not seeing that people really care in the shipping area. about making sure that they're protecting the things that are so expensive that are getting shipped. So I think you need to be aware that maybe you have that, include that in your project management fee. And if you have a separate fee for that, or you charge by the hour for that, maybe there's a certain amount of that that is included, but a certain amount of that you probably have to charge for these days, because it can cost you a lot of hours and a lot of profit in your business that you can't get back.
Going back to the fact that, people don't care so much about if your products get to you in one piece. Earlier
Yes.
today, I went online to see when my package was coming from Chewy, and 5 minutes later, I hear a giant thump, a crash, and I'm like, oh, okay, my package is here. I go out to get it. So yeah, little things like that. It's like they're throwing it on your doorstep and running away. So
It's crazy. It is so crazy. And someone was sharing with me the other day, I have my clients who are starting to send me stories so that I can share those with the other designers. But she was there for an install, and all these boxes come in. The boxes look fine. They don't look damaged. They open the box. The material is damaged.
yeah,
So it came from the vendor that way, and the shipper didn't do it. But we've had
right.
other situations where it's very evident that the damage happened at the receivers at some point, and it happened before it got delivered to the house. So it's really difficult, because I remember back in the years when I was running my business that we used to go once a week down to our receiver, and we would pay for it. We would have them pull out the merchandise and let us look at it and inspect it, because they're not as good at inspecting as we are. So that helped us somewhat. And we found that we were able to avoid a lot of headaches with the clients just being irate if they had something delivered that was damaged. But as we're finding out now, people are too busy to do that. So you can't get your receiver to do it. They'll charge you maybe $18 to inspect it, but it still arrives damaged. So how does that happen? So to me, if they say it's fine when they inspect it, and then you get it to the house and it's damaged, well, who's responsible? Well, it's the receiver.
Right. Oh.
So frustrating. So you go in circles with these people and try to get them to take responsibility, and it's just not easy right now.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. So let's pivot over to talking about setting fees. So this is something I'd like to understand a little more, even though that's not how I work. But are designers doing hourly? Are they doing one set fee? I know things are changing around there as well.
Well, there are as many fee structures as there are design firms, I believe. Not quite true, but I would say the standard still is hourly plus a markup or a discount from suggested retail. Some people are doing an hourly, plus they are also doing an MSRP. So that's fine. And then there are some people who are doing fixed fee. But I will tell you that unless you have really, really good controls over your typical projects, and you set hours and you're managing to make sure that you're staying in the hours that you've set for the project, that you're probably going to lose about 50% of what you could be charging were you to charge by the hour. So that's what I find traditionally, because I look at financials for all of our design firms that we work with, and we help them do all of their planning and also budgeting in terms of how much should they charge and what is their markup. And we look at the financial picture for them based on that. And we also look at how many hours would each person be billing. And when you add all those things up, what I'm finding almost every single time, if somebody switches to fixed fees and they don't have that data and they don't track their hours, they're probably going to lose 50%. So I really say be very cautious with that. You have to have benchmarks in your business. If you do not have those, do not do fixed fees. It's a big mistake. You can do a portion for fixed fees and then followed by hourly, for example, for contract documentation or contract administration. But be very, very careful about having a fixed fee for an entire project. I just saw a client go through a big nightmare with a multi-million-dollar project over a fixed fee, and they did not charge enough. And the client ended up cutting them loose because they felt like they had paid enough for the fees. And it was not enough based on the amount of work and the add-ons. So this is a continuous problem for people, is going back to the client and saying, okay, you've just added to scope. Let me give you a new proposal, or we will do an addendum to the contract to protect them so that they're making sure that they get paid for that extra work.
So what would be the benefit of doing it as a fixed fee? Is it pretty much just for the client?
It's for the client's peace of mind. And if I were in someone's shoes today, I would say, if you're going to do any part as a fixed fee, do it on the part that you have control over. And that could be the conceptual piece on the front end of the project. And the rest of it probably needs to be hourly. So realistically, I think it's really tough to charge enough. We have a calculator that we give people that they can use. It's free. And it's something that we have on our website. And it's something that's allows you to estimate what a fee could be for a project. So if you're going to do a fixed fee, it helps you have a better estimate. So I think it's really important to be very careful about, tread carefully going into that, because fixed fees can kill you. They can absolutely kill you and kill your bottom line.
So, I mean, I guess that's one way that today's designers can gain higher profits, is to avoid the fixed fee. Right. Are there other things that they can do? Like, I assume,
Sure.
Educating themselves on, smart technology or wellness elements or sustainability, like just other things that they can be adding to their projects. What's your advice for them to gain higher profits?
Well, there are so many different things. And for example, some people will do accessorizing, some people don't. And you have to have that estimated into your budget if you're going to do some sort of work with clients, taking it all the way to the end so it's ready for photography, but not all clients will do that. So I would say that, of course, some of the things you can do to get higher profits is you're selling a better product. And the higher the cost of the product with markups on top, the more you'll make. So of course, that's one way of making more money. But also, because you have markups, the clients can be suspicious of that, because they say, well, you're just picking the most expensive thing. And so therefore you're making more money. So that is the downside of having expensive items that you're selecting for projects. You can raise your markups. Of course, that's one good way of getting more money and more profit. Another thing is to raise your hourly rates. Another thing is to make sure that your employees are really billing all of their time, which is exceptionally important today, to be very accurate with that. And then the other thing is to cut costs. So you can only cut costs so far. And then eventually you have to go back to building your top line, getting more clients, and doing all those other things that I just talked about. So those are some of the things you can do to increase your profit.
Okay, so we've come to the talking about the being competitive in today's market in regard to hiring.
Sure.
It's very competitive. What are some things design professionals can do to attract the talent they need?
There are so many things. I can't list all of them. I would tell you that I'll pick a handful of some of the things I think are really important today, especially after we've gone through COVID for a couple of years. People are used to working at home. So if you can build flexibility into your work style and you can allow people to work from home a few days a week, that's a really good idea to have that as part of your benefits, that they can work at home maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And I think also that it's really important to consider some way of providing some health benefits, even if it's a stipend that you're giving people. That's something that's really important today. You also need to know how to be competitive in terms of fees or in terms of salaries, because today people are getting multiple offers. So you need to be competitive. But I think the most important thing, which doesn't cost money, it is working on building a great culture and a great process for hiring, so that the person feels like you're representing how you run your business when you're actually going through the hiring process. So how organized are you? Do you have everything put together so that you have a plan? People know that I'm going to meet with 3 people and I'm going to have an interview with the principal. I'm going to have an interview with somebody else on the team and maybe somebody in HR, and that they know exactly what to expect through the process. So treat your employees as if they are your best client and you're going to have a better result today. So I think it's really important to have some planning put around your whole hiring process. And it's absolutely essential to have a clear process and also a job description, but a process also for onboarding your employees. And you talk about that up front. And if you talk about all those things that I just said to you and include those in your process, you're probably going to have an edge up on most of the designers out there.
So in terms of, a designer has hired some great people, they've got a good team that they're trying to put together. How, once they have that in place, what are the tips for them to be good leaders?
Leadership is such a big deal, and they don't teach you this in school. They don't teach you this in high school, college, anything. So when you actually start running a business, you find out that leadership comes from within you as the person that runs the business. So the stronger you are in terms of your values, your vision, your way of running a business, and also in communicating with people, your emotional intelligence, all of those things are part of being a great leader. And I would say that you're going to have to keep working today to be ahead of the game and be a really good leader. And I think that one of the things I would highly recommend is reading books on leadership and getting leadership training. I actually have an executive coach that we work with the leadership team in our company, and we do talk about leadership quite a bit. And we actually do 360 reviews, and we do all sorts of things to help build our leadership team and their skills so that they are really good leaders. But it really has a lot to do with who you are on the inside. And if you're not in a good place, you're not going to be a good leader. And there's a lot of stress that goes with running businesses. And it's great for you to have friendly relationships within the company, but you're still the leader. And you have to come out and be positive and have really positive things to say to your employees that are going to make them want to enjoy the job and stay with the job. But also you have to be able to give feedback that maybe not so positive all the time too. So a leader has to balance their own emotional state, and they have to balance the emotional state of their employees, and they have to do the positive and the negative. So they have to be able to go on both sides of all of these different situations and give their best, most considered decisions and leadership to those employees by really thinking about what they're doing and what they're saying. You have to really think about it before you open your mouth. So leadership is something that you learn over time. I'm still learning it today, and I'm sure I will until the day I die. And it's one of those things that you should really put that on your list of things you want to read about and study as you're building a business.
Yeah, something that's always changing. You can always learn something new.
Yes, absolutely.
The last podcast I did was with designer Paula Kennedy, and we were talking about maintaining creativity during, good times, bad, all that kind of stuff. And we touched a little bit on this, but I wanted to ask you your thoughts on how our industry professionals can achieve a healthy work-life balance.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think that's a misnomer. I don't think that there is such a thing. And I would tell you that it's healthy integration of work into your life, because there is not a moment or a day that I'm not thinking about work, even if I'm on vacation. So I wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning and I'm thinking about something with work because my brain has been subconsciously working on something. So it's integrating it into your life and being okay with that. So we have to live in the gray. There's not really black and white. So I think that it's really important to remember that if you want work-life balance, think about integration. Think about planning how much time you're spending at work, how much time you're spending with your family. Look at your value system. And if you say that your number one value is your family and you're working 80 hours a week, you're probably not living in integrity with your values. So blocking your time and making sure that you have some time for your family within the workday is important. So if you need to pick up your kids at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then do it. But if you need to work from 8 to 10 o'clock at night, okay, that's not my favorite thing to tell people to do, But if you have to do it occasionally, then that's okay. But you are the one that's in charge of your time. And what I find is a lot of people believe that they don't have control over it, but they really do. So block your time out and really set boundaries for yourself and try to stick with it, because we are our own worst enemy when it comes to time integration.
Absolutely. Somebody said there is no such thing as multitasking, and
Absolutely not.
I mean, I think there is.
Well,
not two big projects at one time, but
you have to be careful what you're multitasking, because if you're multitasking on something that involves concentration,
right.
guaranteed you're going to make mistakes. So if you want to avoid costly mistakes in your business, you'll block out time to work on a project and not take interruptions. And that literally means that you let people know at the office, if you have one, don't interrupt me from 10 to 12 because I'll be working on this project, because interruptions are the absolute worst thing in the world for productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that about writing a lot.
Yes.
I try to block out time to get that done. Something always ends up coming up, but
Of
I
course.
definitely can't multitask and write. Like I can
No.
do that and that's it. But if I do get interrupted, I can come back to it, but then I have to shut down everything else. So
Exactly. You might be able to pet your cat in between if you're working.
yes, she might demand it, but yeah. All right, so I just want to close out our discussion by having you tell us about some of the programs that you offer, so our listeners and viewers can take advantage of this.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I do have a book called Business Breakthrough that is on Amazon. And I highly recommend that to anybody that would like to improve their current business, or especially if they're starting out. It will give you a lot of really great information about the structural pieces that you should have in place in your business. So that would be the first thing. And then we do have a couple of programs. I'm going to talk about two in particular because I think they're really important for our industry. One is called our Alliance program, and the other is called the Boardroom. The Alliance program is for companies that are up to $1 million in revenue, and the Boardroom is for companies that are over $1 million in revenue. And both of these groups that we have are great mastermind groups, meaning that people come together a couple times a year. We have great topics, we have great speakers, we have coaching that goes with that. And most importantly, they have a 3-day VIP experience where we dive deep into their business, way down into the very nitty-gritty details, including helping them put together a 3-year budget for their business. So we help people with all aspects of their business, helping them know who to hire, when to hire, how much to pay those people, really thinking through all the strategy of their business, the marketing, all of those different types of things. So both of those programs, I think, we've been doing these for years. And we've seen clients go from, we had one client that did about $1 million one year, and it's 4 years later, and she's at 3 million, and she has $1 million net profit. So that's just a quick example of the kind of results that we get for our clients. So it's really about helping people understand how to run a business and make money at it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what we're all here for. So
exactly.
Well, Gail, thank you so much for joining us today and giving our listeners and viewers such great tips and great information. And I know you got a busy schedule to get back to, so I'll let you get back to it.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. I enjoyed meeting with you.